Welcome everyone to another video. My name is Hagar, aka Haz, and today I'm going to be discussing whether you should invest long-term versus the short-term. There's a lot of pros and cons behind the two. I'm going to name a few today, and hopefully that makes your life a bit easier. You have a preference, let me know down below, and we can have a good discussion there. But starting off with long-term. And straight away, the first thing that pops to my mind is the capital appreciation. You keep a property for longer than 1, 2, 3, 5 years, naturally the property price will appreciate. We've got a steady upwards motion. Of course, right now, we are in a bit of an up and down, trying to stabilize everything, but ultimately, we will be on the up. Whether we go down slightly now or we go up in the future, that is a story for the future. But with long-term appreciation, you also get that rental income. And there's a lot of strategies you can do. HMO style, there's service accommodation, there's Airbnb, and the rest. So there's a lot of options you can go down for a long-term property investment. And not only that, whether you're purchasing cash or through a mortgage, you can always take money out and invest it into another property. You're growing your property portfolio, you're getting that steady income to live comfortably, I want to say comfortably, and with that, you're also going to get the capital appreciation from each one of the properties. So whenever you feel like you need to sell a property to bring funds out completely, whether it's for personal preference or you might want to invest in something else or change your strategy, there is always plenty of strategies to go down. So there's a worst case and of course a best case. There are some negatives to this, and one is definitely when you're renting property out, it's not going to be as smooth as you think. You can get some evictions, you can get some tenants that just don't pay on time, you can get repair, maintenance things that you have to pay for. So you need to factor those things in. Agent costs, if you're going through an agent, of course, which I recommend highly. So there's a lot of things involved that people don't discuss when going for a long-term property investment. The tax side of things as well, that's a whole nother story. Of course, speak to an accountant, they can advise you. Last but not least, it's just a slow process in general, which is perfectly fine. Nothing's overnight, and no one's going to sell you a dream here because every business naturally is going to be a slow burner. But now moving on to short-term. And I'm more of an advocate for short-term. Reason being is because I flip properties. And when flipping properties, which of course is a short-term thing, you won't have the property for too long. So your money will only be tied up into this property. Worst case scenario, 9, 10 months at best. Of course, if you're new to this, then naturally you'll have the property on for longer, trying to find builders, all this sort of stuff. But if you've done this before, there's no reason why you can't get rid of property within 5 to 7 months at most. And what does this mean? You'll be able to recycle that money over and over and over again. Yes, you may not have a large property portfolio, but the point is you just want to constantly recycle this money, put some to the side, put some for your bills and expenses, and of course, some you can just feel free to spend on whatever you like. For example, the market crashes, you can then rent the property out and look for that long term, possibly for a year or two until the market corrects, and then sell the property on. And once you've done property flips for 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 years, you can obviously look to build from ground up. A lot of people might shy away from that because there's a lot involved, but once you've had the experience of flipping properties and holding on to properties for a short time, you've gathered a large amount, you've been able to save it, and now you're building higher and larger property developments, you'll be able to look to build from ground up because you have the team available. You know what costs come and are involved, and ultimately you can put a majority of your funds that you've built up into this, where you can build possibly 3, 4, 5 houses or even a block of flats. But of course there are some cons involved in this, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows where you're just constantly flipping properties and all is good. Sometimes you get, of course, buyers that pull. You may get buyers that aren't interested or buyers who don't want to offer the amount you've listed for. So I've always mentioned you put that cushion for safety. This stuff does cost a lot of money. You've got a lot of fees involved. You've got stamp duty, you've got the property price, and then you've got the refurb cost, which ultimately the more problems there are in property, the better because you can add more value. but that means you have to fork out a lot more money to be able to fix those problems to then sell the property on. And realistically, when you're flipping property, it will really end up becoming your full-time job. It's very hard to manage a full-time job as well as flipping properties. If you can, that's great, but I don't see how you'll be able to flip properties in a really quick succession if you have a full-time job, unless you hire someone to project manage. And last but not least, you need to think quick. There's no time for delays. There's no time to sit down and have a think about these things. When something's going on, you spot a problem, your builder spots a problem, quick decision, should you fix it? Should you do that? Should you do this? And then ultimately, when it comes to selling the property, if you don't get the figure you want, do you just take it? Do you negotiate it? Or do you wait for another buyer? If I was to give you my input of what I think is best, I prefer the short term at first for a good 4 or 5 years. And then, of course, once you've built up enough funds, possibly have 1 or 2 long-term properties which can bring that reoccurring income to you. And then the rest can either go to building from ground up or even just flipping properties. Maybe do one less so you can have those 2 which are the regular income. So again, a lot of pros to both and some negatives for others. But there we have it. Let me know down below which strategy you prefer. But I've been Haggot, aka Hags. Don't forget the name, and I'll catch you in the next video.